special presentation of T&N Motorsports. It's an old military phrase that major battles are won in the trenches. And in the 19-event war for supremacy in NHRA's funny car category, the infantry role is played by some of the best mechanics in the business. Working hours that would exhaust most mortals, toiling under a relentless timetable amid brutal heat. These consummate professionals all have one thing on their minds: maximum qualifying performance from their machines in pursuit of a slot in the All-Star event for Fuel Coupe, the Big Bud Shootout. It is the biggest weekend on the NHRA's Winston schedule, and for these pilots of these 6,000 horsepower nitro rockets, it is the biggest paycheck on the tour as well. It is the Big Bud Shootout, and they have packed the grandstands here at Indianapolis Raceway Park in Indianapolis, Indiana, as we get set to race for $100,000. Hi, everybody. I'm Ralph Shaheen, and boy, what a weekend of racing we've been having here at IRP with the 42nd annual U.S. National Weekend. The Big Bud Shootout. It's Frank Hawley, my partner. Winner of the first one will tell you, this is big for these guys.
Well, I'll tell you, Ralph, back in 1982 when they had the first Big Bud Shootout and paid $25,000, that was the biggest payday we'd ever heard of in the funny car category. And I was driving for John Force's crew chief, Austin Coyle, at the time, and we beat Don Prudhomme in the final. And I've got to tell you, it was the most exciting funny car race I've ever been in my entire life.
$25,000 in, big money today. It's just chump change when there's $100,000 up for grabs for the winner. And don't forget, if you win the Big Bud and you come back tomorrow and win the U.S. Nationals, which we'll have for you live here on TNN at 4:30 Eastern Time, $50,000 added on as an additional bonus from the folks at the NHRA. So an absolutely huge weekend, and that much money is why these drivers try so hard all year long to qualify for this race, which is not easy to do.
No, your qualifying position at each race, it's a year-long battle, and that's so important because you not only have to worry about qualifying number one to get lane choice at that event and get Winston points, but you also get additional points that qualify you, and they take the top 8 qualifying drivers with those points over the year-long battle to come here for the Big Bud Shootout. So it's a race within a race that everybody wants to get into.
Well, we certainly couldn't do it just by ourselves. So, of course, Bob Fry and Steve Evans are here with us as well for our coverage of the Big Bud Shootout. And, you know, Steve, drivers are very important, but that might not be the only key to winning here today.
No, it's not, Ralph. And Whit Bazemore, that drives this Smokin' Joe's Mustang, will tell you that crew chiefs in this sport are more important than a head coach in the NBA or the NFL. Two things will be paramount today. Get the engine to run consistently on all 8 cylinders. To do that, 2 huge magnetos, 2 spark plugs per cylinder. But still, if you see raw fuel coming out of one of these pipes, the engine is down over 800 horsepower. Maybe even more important will be the clutch. This is the flywheel that bolts to the crankshaft. Here are the 4 discs, 3 steel floaters, and the pressure plate that make one giant pack. Now notice these little fingers here are like stair steps. Each is connected to a pneumatic timer, and they're fired up individually down the racetrack. Get too aggressive, well, you smoke the tires and lose the race. Don't get aggressive enough, and the car doesn't go anywhere because the clutch slips. All in all, it's like walking a 1,320-foot tightrope. Bob Fry?
Here's the way they're going to pair up, boys, in round number 1. It's going to be John Force against poor Gary Bolger, who had to spend the last night trying to think of what he's got to do to stop Force. Then the oil cars get to mix it up. It'll be Tony Pendergon going up against the Kendall GT1 race car. Third pairing, Cruz Pendergon looking to avenge last year's defeat against Gary Denton. And Al Hoffman goes against that Smokin' Joe's car of Whitney. That's the way they're going to match up in round number 1. You know the pairings. Let's meet the drivers. In the 8th spot is Gary Bolger, the fun-loving driver for the only independent team in the field, Creasy Family Racing.
If you can't have fun doing this, it's not worth doing it. I mean, you know, it's a way of life to us, and we just love doing it.
A former independent racer, Gary Denton is seated 7th in his NEC Cutlass. This is the first Big Bud appearance for the California school teacher.
Okay, we love it. It's something we've dreamed about all the years we've raced funny cars, and finally to be a part of the biggest, best race in funny car racing across country. And yeah, we're excited, very excited.
Sixth place in the field belongs to Smokin' Joe's Racing and Whit Bazemore, who is making his third Big Bud appearance.
You know, it's an accumulation of a year's hard work. So if you can go do well and win that race, I mean, you're pretty bad.
Team Castrol driver Tony Pedregon is there in the 5th spot in the field, but he says he doesn't consider himself a rookie.
I think maybe the other guys may feel that way, but I feel real comfortable, you know, with my driving, and I'm, you know, gaining experience, still learning a lot from John, and I really think that's going to be a big asset going to this Big Bud Shootout.
Tony's first-round opponent, Chuck Etchells, hopes for a strong performance after an up-and-down season in his Tim Richards tune, Kendall Avenger.
You know, Tim's made in the last couple of races a lot of major changes in the way he's running the car, and I got some confidence we're on the right path finally to that consistency, so we should be tough.
Al Hoffman's 3 Big Bud Shootout wins include the last 2, but today he comes to Indy with some personnel changes in the Western Auto Camp.
This year, it's going to be special for us. We're going in there with a new crew chief, and we're really starting to run good, and we're looking forward to it.
Second seed, Cruz Pedregon in the McDonald's Pontiac hopes to improve on his 95 runner-up finish in the Big Bud Shootout.
Yeah, we were a cylinder away from $100 grand there, and it was a tough loss because of everything that Budweiser puts up for grabs there, all the money and everything. So, but hopefully we come around and go one notch further this year.
And the #1 ranking belongs to the 3-time winner John Force, who acknowledges that his Castrol team's big budget and superstar crew are important, but it still takes one other ingredient.
Well, if you didn't put a driver in the car, it wouldn't leave the start line. Trust me. Give us some credit, would you, Pry?
Obviously, Force is in the right mood for the Big Bud Shootout. Now, the first 2 rounds were already completed today. We're going to show you those in individual race segments. Here's the first one. Etchells, Tony Pedregon, just the way Frank and I called it. So the first motors come to life here with the Big Bud Shootout. $100,000 up for grabs. The first pair will find Chuck Etchells going up against Tony Pedregon. Etchells, the #4 seed. Tony Pedregon, the #5 seed. John Medlin leads this pair, this crew for the Castrol team. Of course, we'll see teammate of Tony Pedregon in a little bit, John Force. And there is Chuck Etchells, and Frank, I think this one is really going to be a war out of the 4 pairs we're going to see.
Well, there's going to be a lot of good racing today, Ralph. But I'll tell you, Tony Pedregon's got to feel pretty confident in that team car of John Force. He's got a lot of power. Chuck Etchells has been a little hot and cold this year, but when he's hot, he's real hot, and he could be the guy that could certainly stop Tony in this first round.
Well, you know, I think the biggest key, and Steve, you're probably the best one to read this, is going to be the track temperature and the weather outside.
Oh, absolutely, Ralph. I don't have a thermometer down here. I don't need one. I have my brow. I can tell you it is the hottest it has been throughout this U.S. Nationals Labor Day weekend. Plus, the sun is directly overhead with very little cloud cover beating down in this racetrack. Anybody that tries to duplicate their qualifying times from earlier may be in trouble.
What does it do to your setup?
Well, you know, when it gets hot like that, we were talking earlier, and I mentioned that you think maybe you just back things down a little bit just to soften it up some, but the problem is those fuel motors have so much nitro going through them, they need a lot of clutch to burn all that nitro, and if you back it down just a little bit, soften that clutch, sometimes you can have what they would say a drop cylinder where it'll misfire, and if you want to slow your car down 500, so you make an attempt to, sometimes you might slow it down 0.3 of a second, and you just can't afford to do that, so it's not that easy to just back the power down a little bit. They're going to have to try and keep that performance level high.
Well, you saw both John Medlin and Tim Richards making adjustments. Do they seem nervous, Bob?
Now, both teams are pretty confident right here. There's that always ever-present danger of being a little overcautious in that first round, but these are very seasoned pros here that are duking it out in round 1.
Both cars set to go. First pair, the Big Bud Shootout. Etchells goes up in a plume of smoke. Pedregon gets the win. He didn't have the quicker reaction time as well, but a 5.16 at 297 miles an hour. Not exactly the performance we've seen out of him there this weekend. could be a factor of the weather.
Well, it could have been, and, you know, Austin Coyle might have been a little conservative. I'm not real sure, but, you know, the tire smoke there from Etchells is maybe indicative of the better 60-foot time that he had on his side of the racetrack. The car launched real hard. They were going for the throat, and it just didn't work out.
Let's see what John Medlin has to say.
516, not overpowering, but then you didn't overpower the racetrack.
No, we tried not to overpower it. He may have had the pedal out there. I saw a little whoop of the tire, but we may have been marginally over-aggressive, but we're going to need to run 16 to a 10 here to win this.
John Medlin's going to go get his winning driver. Let's go back to the booth.
Let's take a look at the replay. The launch of Key, and it was Pedregon who was out first. There's a little bit of a pedal coming out of Tony's car.
Yeah, you saw both cars about 150, 200 feet down the track lose a little bit of traction, and Chuck Etchells is a star at overcoming that tire smoke, but that time Tony Pedregon seemed to have done the better job.
And of course, the key for Tony Pedregon is going to be, he's going to get to see what happens with John Force as well, and utilize that information as well, Steve Evans.
Tony Pedregon's job description is take out the enemy, and you did just that with Chuck Etchells.
That's right. There was a Kendall car in our way, and I had to pedal it. It's a little warm out there, and, you know, we just wanted to come out here and win. Castrol Pontiac Mac Tools, that's just one step closer to that Big Bud check.
And, guys, I think that John Medlin made the right call. That 516 was just conservative enough.
Hard to argue with Steve as Tony Pedregon advances one round closer to $100,000 of Big Bud money. Another pair of the best funny cars coming your way. TNN's exclusive coverage of the Big Bud Shootout is brought to you by Valvoline Durablend, the #1 selling semi-synthetic motor oil.